What's the scariest theory known to man? GT, let's say we have an ant hill in the middle of the forest. And right next to the ant hill, they're building a 10-lane superhighway. And the question is, would the ants be able to understand what a 10-lane superhighway is? Would the ants be able to understand the technology and the intentions of the beings building the highway next to them? GT, so it's not that we can't pick up the signals from Planet X using our technology, it's that we can't even comprehend what the beings from Planet X are or what they're trying to do. It's so beyond us that even if they really wanted to enlighten us, it would be like trying to teach ants about the internet. This, eternal hell. It's literally the worst thing any human can imagine, that by being a bad person you will be condemned to torture for an infinite amount of time. You might be able to reason that it's justifiable to be tortured for as long as you lived or some algorithm related to such, but eternity is overkill for the sins committed during an unimaginably minute sliver of time.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like nice try Baskin Robbins. I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment. But please like and subscribe.
If you get deep into particle physics, you start to realize that there really is no such thing as solid matter. Everything in the universe appears to be built upon waves of vibrating energy, and if you look deep enough at anything, there's really nothing there, at all, and we don't actually exist as matter in spacetime in the way you think we do. This concept supports a smorgasbord of fantastical theories: the idea we live in a simulation, the idea that there's actually a god of some sort, the idea there's multiple universes, some say an infinite number of them, or any number of other interesting ideas. The main counterargument here is that we are intelligible beings, meaning we actually are aware of ourselves, and ask questions. Our driving force as humans is to understand. While the technology would likely be difficult to initially figure out, we have basic understandings of how the world actually functions on a subatomic level. This gives a greater premise to even begin to fathom what an alien race would have. TL, Doctor, it's not that the ant doesn't understand, it's that the ant doesn't try in the first place. There's a really brutal one I've heard but can't remember its name. It basically says that every horrible thing you can imagine has been done by someone in the world at some point in human history. I can think of some pretty messed up things, and it creeps me out that they may have been done before. The simulation hypothesis that it is more likely that we are just a virtual program running, than that we are real. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. ITT. People who think this theory was inspired by the Matrix. I believe it is mostly the other way around. Probably neither is entirely original. People who wonder why I phrased it as more likely, please bear in mind I am merely reporting the theory that it is more likely. That's what the theory is, and it's not my theory. The more likely part is what makes the theory scary, otherwise it's just hey, we might be in a simulation. But we can hope that, like the other theories in this thread, that it's wrong. After all, it is just a theory. For more information on why someone has considered it likely that we are in a mere simulation, you can look here for the Eli 5 version and here for a more thorough analysis with some interesting additional conclusions. Bottom line of the theory is that just one universe can support gazillions of simulations, so if you exist, chances are you are in a daughter. People who don't think it would be so bad if we're just a simulation. I thought this part of the discussion was the most interesting. I thought this story, thanks you Zerothedolphin, is a fun way of starting to explore how this could be both interesting and disturbing. Dozens of mathematicians here who are asserting that irrational numbers disprove this theory. To one extent this is relevant. We can apparently find evidence that we're in a simulation if we find an end to any irrational number. But the fact that we haven't done so yet doesn't prove the opposite. Maybe the simulation just has to stay one step ahead of our own observations. Anyway, it was interesting that 37 of you came up with this exact idea and responded separately, almost as if you were oblivious to the others. Almost like you were in your own individual simulations. This theory appears to be provable, but not yet proved, but not yet falsifiable. Ergo, it is a philosophical theory at the moment, and not a scientific one. Other funny and interesting stuff, comics, etc. Thanks to the 400 of you who responded to this. I now understand why people use anal insertion inbox analogies under these circumstances. But I decided to relax and enjoy it, and so it was fun and exciting. Thanks. It wasn't until around the year 1800 that humanity reached a population of 1 billion after thousands and thousands of years. In the 215 years since then, the world population has increased to 7.2 billion. That exponential growth has very large, and long-lasting negative effects on our planet, and will continue to do so until we reach carrying capacity and die off. I'll expand on human population a little more. Most modern scientists have the human species being around 200,000 years old based on fossil records. Around the year 1800 is when human population first hit 1 billion. That means it took 198,200 years to reach that number. Human population hit 2 billion around 1927. Human population hit 3 billion around 1959. Human population hit 4 billion in 1974, 5 billion in 1987, 6 billion in 1999, and 7 billion in 2012. It's at the point where we are growing by 1 billion people nearly every 12 to 13 years, that is not very sustainable for a long period of time no matter how you look at it. Especially with the modernization of third world countries. With the development of those countries comes increased life expectancy and lower birth rates with access to medicine, education, housing, and sanitation. So with it you say okay, the birth rate decreases, but life expectancy increases. What does that mean? That still results in more people being born than people dying, thus still net population gain, and not only is that net gain, but that is net gain people who live longer. So that means 11 billion people, obviously not all 11 billion in reality, projected in 2100 will live longer, and die less often while still the population increases. I am definitely not an expert on population growth and resource usage by humans, but it definitely is not a good outlook overall. Then we get to the actual problem, limited resources on Earth. The population now alone overconsumes. What will happen when we have reached the 10 to 11 billion mark? We are slowly killing our own species, and the species around us, as we have to increase our consumption every year to account for our population growth and extended life expectancies. To put it simply, it takes Earth 18 months or so to produce the ecological services humanity uses in 1 year with 7.2 billion people. What will happen when the population reaches 11 billion? It's not a matter of if we run out of resources due to population and consumption, it's when. Graph of human population since 10,000 that you will forever relive your own life. It does make a lot of sense because once you die you don't belong anywhere, not space or time, and you always exist during the time you were alive. So you might just be constantly experiencing it all. Even if your life is good, it is pretty horrible to know that all that you learned will disappear, and every mistake you do anything to take back will be repeated and experienced over and over. But think of most lives and it gets infinitely worse. And then those that were extraordinarily horrible. Talk about unfair. Astronomer here. Gamma ray bursts are not actually a theory, they are a fact, as we observe them from all corners of the universe, a few times a week. In fact, GRBs are highly directional. So we are actually in the path of the GRBs we see, they're just super far away. But, I hear you ask, what about a GRB going off close enough to fry us? Well, the good news is we are fairly certain we know what causes them, and the only ones you are going to have close enough to fry us come from exploding supernovae. And there are no stars ready to go supernova within the crucial kill us all radius to do this. So rest easy. Smile, quantum suicide, quantum immortality. The idea that we never really die in our perspective. Every time we encounter a situation where we may die, we continue on in a parallel universe where something happens that prevents our death. But we die in the original universe. In a sense, our consciousness lives on by transferring itself to a parallel universe where we continue to exist.
Do you have any idea how convenient it is to use a Keurig machine for brewing coffee or tea? Personally, I gave up coffee a long time ago, but I was able to get a great, delicious cup of coffee in just seconds with no cleanup, no extra work, using a Keurig machine and a K-cup. And now I use my Keurig machine to brew tea, loose leaf tea, every day that I drink. And I also use it to make oatmeal and, anything else that you can put hot water into. So if you don't have a Keurig machine in your house, you're missing out. Try my affiliate link below in the description of the video, and you too can enjoy a great cup of coffee in seconds, any time of day.
Swiggity swooty, I'm coming for that booty. This is basically the premise for H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. Bengloomglnyfh Cthulhu Rulia Wganagalfthan. The Sky Hungers. The Phantom Time Hypothesis. The Phantom Time Hypothesis is a historical conspiracy theory advanced by German historian and publisher Heribert Illig, born 1947, which proposes that the year 613 was followed by the year 911 and that historical events between AD 614 and 911 in the early Middle Ages of Europe and neighboring regions are either wrongly dated, or did not occur at all, and that there has been a systematic effort to cover up that fact. The hypothesis suggests a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto II, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII to fabricate a dating system that placed them at the special year of AD 1000, and to rewrite history, inventing the heroic figure of Charlemagne among other things. Not suggesting I believe it, rather that it's scary that others do, as Use Andorra notes below, quantum immortality is pretty scary. Every time the universe splits, your consciousness only continues on into one of the created universes. Eventually we all end up being the sole inhabitant of a universe filled with zombies, i.e. people who act normally but lack conscious inner lives. What's worse, we continue to live despite a never-ending series of things that nearly kill us: illness, losing limbs, becoming incredibly old and infirm, so we cannot die but are stuck with increasingly terrible, lonely lives for all eternity. Astronomer here. I think 3 is not necessarily true as proof of the Great Filter, especially if we find life on Europa or Mars. Firstly, because life on Mars will likely just be some bacteria, which evolutionarily is far behind where we are, so that won't tell you anything about where any filters might be. Basically, space is so vast that I don't think it's reasonable to say we've already sufficiently taken enough data to know we haven't found it because we've actually searched well enough to know it's rare. In fact, it would be really encouraging to find it on Mars or Europa, because even if that's just within our own solar system, it would show you conditions are great for life to spring up. But then, if someone says life exists in the solar system, we're fucked because there's a filter in front of us. Versus life exists in the solar system, this is amazing because it shows how easy it is for life to pop up. Maybe it's a difference between the glass half empty versus glass half full. Smile. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death, life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather. This is called the false vacuum death of the universe. It's kinda on line with cold death and heat death, but a lot more sudden. That the universe can be gone in an instant and we wouldn't notice because we'd get wiped out by another expanding universe. I'll try my best to explain as simple as I can get it. Think of it as a wave. Universe A and Universe B are waves. A is bigger than B due to A being more stable and larger, it swallows up Universe B. With this, we might not even notice, it goes at the speed of light, so we won't be able to see it ahead of time. The effects perhaps are drastically different depending on how stable each universe is to each other and what happens at the event horizon. As an astronomer, I feel like I always pop into these threads to clarify theories people saw on a documentary once. So here's one that freaks me out a little, that the universe is a false vacuum. This is, in short, a theory scientific hypothesis that our universe is actually in a false phase state as part of a larger universe, like if it were in a temporary thing. Think the real universe is a pot of boiling water, and we are just within a bubble forming at the bottom of the pot. Eventually, however, that false vacuum has to pop, yes, even after billions of years in this false state, and we and everything we know in our visible universe will disappear in an instant with no warning whatsoever, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sweet dreams. Clarity, the great filter. It's a theory about why the universe seems so filled with potential for life and yet we haven't found it. It states that somewhere between pre-life and an advanced civilization capable of colonizing the stars, there's a great filter that stops them and ends life. This means humans fit into one of these 3 scenarios. A. We're rare, meaning we've already passed the great filter, unlike other civilizations on other planets. B. We're the first, meaning conditions in the universe are only now life-friendly and we're among many on our way to the capability of colonization. C. We haven't hit the filter yet, meaning we're fucked. If this one is true, it means finding life or proof of life on Mars or Europa would be awful news because it would almost certainly mean the filter is still ahead of us instead of behind us. More good reading. The full paper from Nick Bostrom. I forget the name of the argument, but it goes as follows. Assumptions. The brain is the origin of all consciousness. The brain operates on electrical impulses. External stimuli can affect the way the brain operates. Any external stimuli to the brain can be simulated to a degree that the brain cannot distinguish these simulated stimuli from natural stimuli. The point, you could be a brain in a jar, being fed false impulses for your entire life by an external source, or you, still a brain in a jar, could be hallucinating your entire life from lack of stimuli. Formatting. Brain in a vat. Also, nod to the 20 or so like the Matrix posts. I envision the brain being removed from the body, which is not the case with the Matrix.
This year, like I said, I'm having a midlife crisis. I've started a YouTube channel and I'm on a big health kick. One thing that I found is very easy to eat, very easy to prepare, is I heat up chickpeas with chicken broth and tikka masala. And there are two schools of thought about how you should eat beans. Some people believe you should buy the dry beans and soak them, but I tried that and it was a disaster. So I buy canned beans every time. And if I'm opening like 2 cans a day to be on this diet, it is a massive pain in the ass if the can has this jagged metal edge. You know, I'm worried if like little bits of metal are getting into my food and going to slice up my intestines. So I found this special can opener that actually opens the can in a way that is completely safe, no metal's getting in your food, and it is 1,000 times better than any other can opener I've ever used. So if you wind up, opening a lot of cans for whatever reason, maybe you've got a cat or something, you must buy this can opener from my affiliate link.
A bit late, but here it is. You might never be alone. Imagine if there was a 2D person. If you stare at them a certain way, they can't see you. All you have to do is look from a top view and they won't know you're there, and they would never know. And living their life as 2D, they would never be able to comprehend how something could be looking down on them. Now imagine a 4D person. They could be looking at you from a 4-dimensional angle. An angle that you will never understand. They could be right beside you, but you wouldn't know, and you would never know. And just as we could interact with the 2D person, the 4D person could interact with us. But as long as they don't want us to, we could never interact with them, yet even know of them. TLDR, so when you think you're alone, there could be something right next to you, staring at you, and you will never know. Edit, I have decided I am going to read Flatland. Edit 2, Jalil gave me an idea to extend this. A being of a higher dimension could pull us into a separate 3D plane. You could be pulled into another world where nothing else exists. And they could just leave you there. Edit 3, to add to my second edit, a user suggested I watch rabbit and deer very similar. GT, let's say we have an anthill in the middle of the forest. And right next to the anthill, they're building a 10-lane superhighway. And the question is, would the ants be able to understand what a 10-lane superhighway is? Would the ants be able to understand the technology and the intentions of the beings building the highway next to them? GT, so it's not that we can't pick up the signals from Planet X using our technology, it's that we can't even comprehend what the beings from Planet X are or what they're trying to do. It's so beyond us that even if they really wanted to enlighten us, it would be like trying to teach ants about the internet. This, eternal hell. It's literally the worst thing any human can imagine, that by being a bad person you will be condemned to torture for an infinite amount of time. You might be able to reason that it's justifiable to be tortured for as long as you lived or some algorithm related to such, but eternity is overkill for the sins committed during unimaginably minute sliver of time. If you get deep into particle physics, you start to realize that there really is no such thing as solid matter. Everything in the universe appears to be built upon waves of vibrating energy, and if you look deep enough at anything, there's really nothing there, at all, and we don't actually exist as matter in spacetime in the way you think we do. This concept supports a smorgasbord of fantastical theories: the idea we live in a simulation, the idea that there's actually a god of some sort, the idea there's multiple universes, some say an infinite number of them, or any number of other interesting ideas. The main counterargument here is that we are intelligible beings, meaning we actually are aware of ourselves, and ask questions. Our driving force as humans is to understand. While the technology would likely be difficult to initially figure out, we have basic understandings of how the world actually functions on a subatomic level. This gives a greater premise to even begin to fathom what an alien race would have. Doctor, it's not that the ant doesn't understand, it's that the ant doesn't try in the first place.
This year, like I said, I'm having a midlife crisis. I've started a YouTube channel and I'm on a big health kick. One thing that I found is very easy to eat, very easy to prepare, is I heat up chickpeas with chicken broth and tikka masala. And there are two schools of thought about how you should eat beans. Some people believe you should buy the dry beans and soak them, but I tried that and it was a disaster. So I buy canned beans every time. And if I'm opening like 2 cans a day to be on this diet, it is a massive pain in the ass if the can has this jagged metal edge. I'm worried if like little bits of metal are getting into my food and going to slice up my intestines. So I found this special can opener that actually opens the can in a way that is completely safe, no metals getting in your food, and is 1,000 times better than any other can opener I've ever used. So if you wind up, opening a lot of cans for whatever reason, maybe you've got a cat or something, you must buy this can opener from my affiliate link.